Okay, so welcome back to my channel. I want to first start off by thanking all of you who take the time to view my content, and of course all of my new subscribers. Of course, as the title states, this is going to be a recap of Cloak and Daggers. I was looking on demand, and there was actually a movie that was done in like 1993, 95. I'm probably going to watch that just to see how it compares to the actual new show. If you don't know, Cloak and Daggers is a Marvel show that airs on Freeform TV. And it's basically about these two individuals whose lives become intertwined one night after unfortunately tragic events. So you have Kate, who is Dagger. Her life is depicted as she's this young girl who, you know, it's like she's, from the time you see her, she's surrounded by light. You know, she's in her ballet class. It's very bright. She's in her, you know, she has her blonde hair and blue eyes, and she has her little pink tutu on, and it's very, it seems like she's, you know, she grew up very middle class, two-parent home. And, you know, one night she's leaving class and she's waiting for, she's probably like, I don't know, 8, 9 at this point. And so she's, after class, she's waiting for her father to pick her up. And then you have Ty, who's African-American, also grew up in a two-parent home. He has an older brother. He's around the same age as her. And he has an older brother who's trying to do the right thing. He has this little side thing where him and his friends install car stereos. And one night him and his friends are standing around talking, and obviously the same night, the girl is standing outside waiting for her father to pick her up. They're standing around talking about a person who stiffed them. They installed the stereo and the person didn't pay them. And so his friends, the brother wanted to go to the police, but his friends wanted to be gully and just go and take the stereo out of the car. And so because the older brother, he just wasn't for it, they like, you know, basically tried to clown him a little bit, but he stood fast and just walked like, you know, whatever, I'm gonna go in on. But his older brother Ty, who's Cloak, he overheard them, and I guess to, I don't know, help his brother out, because you could tell that him and his brother are really close. And he decided to go, he broke into this car. How he knew enough to break into a car, I don't know. But he was able to break into this car, and he was able to get the stereo and the radio. And so now he's walking to, I guess I don't know if he was going home or he was going to try to catch up with his brother. And so you flash to the young girl who's waiting for her father to pick her up. And at this point, it's dark, it's raining, it's pouring down raining, so it looks really dark out. And so she's standing out there just dancing, just carefree, being her, and then her father pulls up and she gets in the car. So you flash back to Ty. He's walking, his brother, I guess, jumps out and scares him, and, you know, he hands him the stereo, and he said, oh, so you gangster now? So he basically he got on him about doing that. He said, we're going to take the stereo back. So on their way to take the stereo back, the men in blue show up, and they see these two black boys out at night with the stereo, this car stereo in their hand. And so without asking any questions, it becomes a whole situation. And so of course they take off running. And so they find themselves on the pier, and his little brother goes and hides, and he is standing there. He's just standing there with his hands up with the stereo in his hand. And one of the cops, I think the little boy had kicked something by mistake, but one of the officers discharged his weapon twice, ended up shooting him in the chest, and he falls over into the water. So the cop looks back and he sees the little boy standing there, and then Ty runs out, and she jumps in the water to save his brother. So we flash to the little girl. She's in the car with her father. He works for some company that's dealing with this rig. Something's going on with this rig, and they're trying to figure out what the problem is. So it's, like I said, it's raining out. He's on his cell phone. You can tell it's a whole big situation. She's in the back seat. You can tell she looks kind of scared because her father is he's on the phone, and, you know, he's driving, but you can tell he's not paying as much attention to the road as it should be. And so next thing you know, they're on the pier. Now they're driving across the, well, I don't say the pier, they're driving across the bridge over the water. And next thing you know, you hear well, it sounds like a small explosion. So they look over and they see the rig. And so he's distracted by the explosion of the rig, and he misses, he turns back just in time to see this truck coming towards him. So he has to swerve to avoid this truck. He ends up going over driving into the water. Okay, so then you have Kate and Ty. They're both underwater now. And so Ty realizes, jumps in to save his brother, but he realizes at this point his brother is dead. And so now he's trying to swim to the surface. Kate realizes her father's knocked out. So it's unclear whether or not he's dead at this point or if he's just unconscious. But of course the car is filling up with water, and she's a kid, she's terrified, she doesn't know what's going on. And Ty, you see Ty, he's swimming up, but somehow he comes up under the rig. So he's trying to move himself to get out, and next thing you know, there's this big explosion. A ton of energy is released, almost like if you've ever seen The Flash, where the particle accelerator exploded, and you saw that light, and that's basically how it happened with the rig. And so Ty is exposed to the energy, and he's knocked out briefly underwater. And the little girl who's stuck in the car, she's exposed to the energy briefly, so she's knocked out. And so what you see is Ty sees, when he comes to, he sees a bright light, so he's going towards the light. And when she comes to, she sees what looks like to be dark clouds surrounding her. And so now she's going to the dark clouds. And so the next thing you know, you see them lock hands, so like he's pulling her out of the car. So years later, you see them, they're now teenagers. And you kind of see how the events of that night has impacted their life. For Kate, obviously her father died that night. And, you see her, and now she grew into this beautiful, young lady. But you can see that she has problems. So she's actually a con woman. And her boyfriend, they basically rip off the rich kids. So she'll go in, she'll be dressed to the nines, going into these events, and usually, obviously, some guy will make a play for her. And the scam is she gets the guy to take her back to his place, and she chats them up and makes them a drink, but she slips something into their drink, and so eventually they pass out, and she lets her boyfriend in, and so they have so much time to snatch whatever they can snatch to sell. And so you find that she is no longer at home, because at this point you still haven't seen her mother. She actually lives in an abandoned church, and I don't think even her boyfriend doesn't know where she lives. She'll have him drop her off at one place, and then after he pulls off, she makes her way to the church. Ty, he's actually grows into a handsome young man. He's on the basketball team. It's, I guess, halftime. They're in the locker room. The coach is chewing them out for, I guess, not playing well. I'm not a sports person, but he didn't sound all that happy. And so, they go back out, and you see this guy he's playing against. It's that's all on his ass. Like I said, I don't know basketball, but the guy that was blocking him was doing a whole lot, and eventually he actually puts his hand on him, which the coach didn't see. He actually took his hand and pushed his face. Now you can already tell that he was frustrated throughout the game, but once the guy did that and pushed his face and kind of pushed him to the ground, he snapped. He went off and he beat the shit out of this guy. Both teams had to jump in to pull them apart. You see his family, you see his parents in the stands. So one good thing is that his parents are still together, which is a good thing. And they're kind of in the stands just looking like, and I mean, partly it's because they understand that he's been traumatized, and he's still, I don't know if he's suffering from some kind of PTSD. I guess you would, after seeing your loved one being shot in the chest like that, being killed before your eyes, especially at that age, and especially someone you were very close to, his brother. And so, but another part of them just looked disappointed, and so he looked in the stands and saw their face, and they get home, and the father just walked on, and his mom was just like, just go to bed. Like they didn't even want to talk to him that night. So he, went to bed. And later on that night, they started arguing. And he just put his headphones on and went to bed. So it's like you can see he has a lot of anger, and he's still working through things. And which I think, you know, what I find interesting is that usually when in these shows, you'll usually see, I'm glad they don't have the stereotypical, what I'm happy to see is that I'm glad they don't have these stereotypical black boys growing up in a single parent home on the streets of whatever, trying to scrape to survive kind of situation. You know what I mean? Who just happens to come into happens to have these abilities, and you know, it's just, I'm glad that that's not the storyline, because I'm like, you know, we've seen that, it's been done to death. So I am glad that they are depicting, you know, these boys came from a 2-parent home, even though, you know, right now, you know, they're still grieving the loss of their son, even though it's years later, and he's, you know, still grieving the loss of his brother. And so obviously it's not perfect, but the fact that they've been able to get as far as they have together, I think that's what I'm more happy to see. We get a chance to see where Kate and her mom ended up after her father died. So Kate makes it, goes home, and well, I guess she considers home where she sleeps, which is that abandoned church, but she went to, I guess, see her mom. And so you see they ended up in some busted up trailer park. And you see her have, I don't know if it was a flashback of when she was a little girl after the explosion. Basically, the company was trying to lay all the blame at her father's feet. Now, he's dead, so he can't defend himself. But, so you had a bunch of, I don't know if they were police officers, agents, they had their attorney there. They were going through all of their things, and, you know, the attorney was explaining to the mom what was going on. And she was asking about the insurance. He was like, oh, it's through the company. And what about the house? And he basically said that he would try to get back to her to find out what's what, but obviously they didn't get to keep the house because they're now living in some busted, broken down trailer. So basically they lost everything. And they her and her boyfriend actually goes to the pawn shop to pawn what they could sell, pawn what they could pawn. And he came back and said, oh, we were able to get, I don't know if they got $1,000 for everything and he gave her $5, or he was saying that he said $500 total. But she's like, they can't be right. So then they went back a little bit, and he said, well, you know, I heard about this party that's going on in the woods. Obviously going to be a lot of rich kids there, aka a lot of marks, and so you should go and check it out. And so she's going to go to make a plan to go to the park for the little rave that they're having. Ty, he's in school, they're in between classes, and Vita walks up to him, a cute little girl. Why she as a teenager got this huge bow in her hair, I was confuzzled. I'm like, all right, that. But anyway, she's as cute as a button. And so she walks up to Ty and told him about the party. Like, we're having this party, and the girls wanted me to invite you. I guess because is she a cheerleader? I think she is. So they actually won that game, despite the fight. They won that game, made it to state. And so they wanted her to invite him to the party to celebrate, to the little party to celebrate. And so they had a cute exchange, and she gave him her number, so that he can contact her and they can work things out. Ty goes to the party, and Kate bumps into him. She spills her drink all over him. She's very apologetic. They chat for a little while, and then she kind of moves around the party. So at this point, they don't know each other. After that night when they were kids, they never saw each other again. And so he runs into Vita, and Vita, you know, asks him to buy her a drink. And so that's when he realized he just got. So basically, her bumping into him that's obviously a scam. So while he's distracted, she picked his pocket, basically. So he saw her moving around, and he called out, and she took off. So he took off behind her, and he ends up catching up with her, grabs her. And then the light starts coming from her hands, like this dark cloud starts coming from him, and this kind of flash, and they both are flung back in opposite directions. They're now she's looking at her hand, at the light coming from her hands. He can see the light coming from her hands, but he also sees like the the dark cloud coming from him, and so she's looking at him, and they're like looking at each other in astonishment, like in amazement, and he's looking at her like, what did you do to me? And she's like, what do you mean, what did you do to me? And they're going back and forth. And then she realized it was the same cloud she saw when she was a kid. When whoever pulls her out of that car, she saw that dark cloud first. And so she said, oh my God, are you that kid? And so he's looking at her like, from the beach. He said, the beach? He's like, the night of the explosion? And so she started to run away, and he grabbed her, and it was like wanted to talk. But then when they touch, you can see something happens when they touch. And so the light, got a lot brighter, and it kind of blinded him temporarily. And so when he was able to see, she was gone. But she had left her bag. And so now he's standing there confused, and he got her bag. So I'm assuming he got his wallet back. And then you see that she didn't actually get far. She just hid. Because I guess she just didn't. I guess you could say that was a lot. That's a lot to take in. So, yeah. After their encounter, you see Kate with her boyfriend there parked somewhere, and after they have a little session in the truck, and she starts talking about God, or whether or not he believed in God, and he's just trying to talk through some things. She's still trying to make sense of what's going on with her. Ty goes home, and he goes straight to bed, and he wakes up in a strange place. He's on the roof of a building. And so you see one of his abilities is that he can teleport. But of course he doesn't know that yet, because again, he's still trying to make sense of what's happening to him as well. And so he makes his way down. As he's making his way down from the roof to leave the building, you see a flashback of him as a kid. Him and his parents were at the police station, and the cop was telling him that they had found their son's body, and that they had found drugs, and this is a whole bunch of bullshit, right? And so the little boy, Ty, as a kid, was like, that's a lie, you're lying, you're lying. And the parents, his parents wasn't really, they didn't really listen to him. And I can imagine, they're kind of, you've just received news that your son, you knew that he died, but they recovered his body, and it's just a whole. And then the cop puts on a recording, a surveillance recording, and they have the little Ty as a kid, they have him on camera breaking into this car to steal the stereo. So now they're looking at him like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I was just trying to help. And he was just trying to help me, and the cop shot him. And so this damn cop is gaslighting the shit out of this little boy. Like, you said the cop had red hair with a scar, and he said, yeah. He's like, son, I've worked here for many years, and I've never seen anybody like that. And so what you find is that it flashes back to him coming down the stairs. He's leaving the building, and who does he see loading some shit into his trunk? The redheaded cop with the scar on his face. So he overhears, he listens to the conversation, and he hears that the guy, he says his name, and then he says he works in Vice. So now he has something to go on. But now his issue is he has to get home. So he tries to wave a flag down a cab. And of course the cabs are looking at him because he's a black boy in his underwear wrapped in a sheet. Like, who's seriously gonna pick your ass up? No, seriously. So he ends up having to hoof it all the way home. Now I don't know how far that was, but that was his only option. So you go to Kate, and she's back at the trailer, and she has a little bag out. And so what she does is Kate also has a drug problem. And so when she sets these people up, she raids their medicine cabinet, and she's still taking what she can get. And so she has this little pink bag that she hides in like a vent in the bathroom. And so she has her bag out. She takes whatever pill she wants to pop that day out, and she puts her, and whatever money she gets from whatever she steals, and she puts it in the bag, and she puts it in the little vent, and puts the bag back into the vent. So she's in the bathroom. She gets her little stash out, and her mom comes home. And you can see that her mom works at some kind of diner. She had a little name tag on, a little waitress dress, whatever. And so now she's trying to get herself together. She uses a knife, so she was trying to grab the knife. She was trying to put the stuff away really quick before her mom came in. She ends up cutting her hand, and so she walks out the bag out, and she talks. She starts talking to her mom, and then her mom goes into the court because her mom is still trying to fight the company about what happened with her husband and the insurance, she's basically she's been working all these years to get back her try to get back her old life, and get what they're owed. But at the same time, her mother also has a drug problem, and she's also an alcoholic. So she basically is like, Mom, this whole court thing, and her mom is really adamant about it. So she was like, her mom was like, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to go to court. And she's basically placating her mom, like, you know what, that sounds like a plan. And so she saw the blood on her hand, and she's like, oh my God, what happened? And she's like, oh, I'm okay. And so you find out one of Kate's abilities is when she touches someone, she can see inside their mind. She can see like the goodness, their hopes, their dreams. And so she had like she see this vision of her as a kid. She's watching this as her teenage self, but she's seeing herself as a kid in ballet class, putting on her slippers, and she see her mother and father there, and they're smiling and happy, and remember she used to love to dance, and this whole thing. And so she pulls away from her mom, and then she's like to her mom, like, did you see that? And her mom was like, I don't. So the thing is, she can see inside, she can see the visions, but the person she's touching can't. So it's not like a shared thing. And so now she's even more freaked out. And so he flashed back to Ty, and based on the information that he has, he gets down to his laptop, and he's trying to find out whatever he can about this red-headed officer with the scar on his face. So while Ty is researching the red-headed officer with the scar on his face, his mom walks in, and she asked him about school. And she said, well, the school called and said that she didn't make it to school, make it there today. So I don't know how long it took him to get home on foot, but yeah, the school said that she didn't make it in today. And so they had a little back and forth, and he was like, Mom, this pressure that you're putting on me, I just feel like I always have this pressure on me to feel like you guys want me to be, that I have to do everything perfect. He was like, I know I miss him too, but I just can't deal with the smothering. And she looked at him, and she, with all the fear I guess a mother could have in her eyes and the pain, and she looked him dead in his eyes and said, you know what, that's my fear. My fear is that even if you do everything perfect, I could still lose you. And he, just looked at her, and she walked out. And so, you could see that it's something you can see. It's something that's always, obviously it's something that's always with her. It's something always going to be in the back of her mind every time he leaves the house. Every time he misses a phone call, or misses his curfew, or that's always going to be in the back of her mind. And you can see that he was really taken aback and hurt. He was hurt at the pain that he could see in her eyes. So that was a really sad moment. Kate got caught slipping. So if you remember, when they robbed the last guy, she stole some ballet tickets that they weren't able to sell. And so she decided to use one and go see the show. The guy that she robbed kind of thought that he may see her there. And so as she was leaving, him and two other guys ran up on her and forced her into an alley. And he was telling the guy, see, I told you she would show up. And so now she's in this alley with these three guys. Ty, after the conversation with him and his mother, he laid down to go to sleep or take a nap. He wakes up again on the roof of this building. No, actually he wakes up in the trunk of a car. So at this point, obviously he doesn't know where he is. So it's flashing back and forth between the two of them and their situations. It flashed back to the morning after the explosion, and they both got out of the water. They were both asleep holding hands on the beach. So she wakes up first, and she's looking around, and you see the little pink bag that she now used to store her contraband. You see the little pink, that was the bag that she used for ballet class. And you see this black hoodie. Now the significance of this hoodie is earlier in the episode when Ty ran into his older brother and he was listening to them talk, his brother said, "Is that my hoodie?" And Ty was like, "Well, you left it in my room." So I guess, you know, I guess he was saying, "Well, you left it in my room, so it's mine now." And this thing was huge on him. It was swallowing him up. And so you see them on the beach, and she took the hoodie to wrap herself in, and she obviously took her little pink bag, and she went wherever she went. And so the guy who had her in the alley, he eventually told the other two guys, "Okay, well, you can go." And so he proceeded to try to rape her. And so what you find is her other ability is that she can create daggers from the light. And so what she did was, out of fear or anxiety or whatever, she was able to create one, and she ends up stabbing this man. And so she looks down and she sees it in her hand and the light and all that, and he's shocked that he's stabbed and he collapsed. So she makes a run for it. Ty is still in the trunk of this car, and he could hear people talking, and there was this bag in the car that he saw the officer put in the car. So at this point, we know that he's in the trunk of the officer's car, but he doesn't. So he sees this bag, he sees it's full of cocaine. And then he hears him talking to a person about the cocaine and how, you know, whatever pricing or whatever the case may be. And so as soon as he opens the trunk, Ty throws a bunch of this cocaine in his face to blind him, just give him enough chance to get out of the car. So he jumps out of the trunk and makes a run for it. The other guy who the cop was doing business with, he jumps in his car, he pulls off. The cop takes off after Ty. So they run into this, I guess, warehouse, and Ty gets away for a while, but he eventually catches up with him. And you find out Ty's other ability is when he touches someone, he sees all their darkness. So when he touched the cop, he went back to that night where his brother was murdered. And it was interesting because something happened to the cop when Ty touched him. Whereas it was different with when Kay touched her mom. It looked like it had taken something out of the cop when Ty touched him, and it distracted him long enough for Ty to make a run for it. So Ty makes a run for it. He's shooting at him, but Ty only got so far because he ran into another gate. And just as the cop started shooting at him, Ty was able to teleport himself back to the room just before the bullet hit him. And so now he's back in his room, and he looks over and he can see the bullet in his trash can. So again, he's nearly escaped with his life. And then you see a flashback of him. So he's back on the as a kid where he wakes up and he's looking around, and he saw one of her ballet slippers stuck in the rubble after the explosion. So he has her ballet slipper. So she's back at the church where she lives, and she grabs the hoodie and wraps herself in the hoodie almost like a blanket, a security blanket. And he goes in his closet and goes into this little box he has, and he pulls out her ballet slipper. And that's, basically how the episode ends. A really good show. And, you'd want to see what happens next and how they interact and how their powers work together. So I'm going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode.